Hey guys, what's going on? Megan here. I am so mad. I just recorded a 30-minute video and forgot to press record. That's what happens when you take a long break. You get a little rusty. But yeah, unfortunately, this one is going to be short because I'm not doing 30 minutes again. All right, so answering all of your questions about carbohydrates, testosterone, and building muscle. All right, so let's see. First, let's look at the quiz. So here's the table of contents, right? I'm going to give you guys the correct answer to the quiz. I'm going to go down the comment section and answer some of the frequently asked questions. And I'm going to give you guys the reason why this is the correct answer. Right? So if you want the sciencey, nerdy details, stay until the end. If you just want the questions answered, then it's going to be the earlier part of the video. All right. Glad to be back. Let's go. Testosterone true or false quiz. Eating more carbs can increase testosterone levels if you keep fats and calories equal, obviously. The correct answer is true. So 73% of you guys got this correctly. 27% got this wrong. And like I said, I'm going to explain at the end of the video why carbs increase testosterone. Not just testosterone levels, but net androgen status, which is really what matters. All right, let's go. Goku's always right. Need that in life, though. Megan, what's best macros play for bulking? Best macros play for bulking. That really depends on the individual, right? I don't like giving general answers when you're dealing with individual people because it depends on your lifestyle, depends on your stress levels, depends on your body composition, it depends on your training status, it depends on so many things. But generally, if you're bulking, keep in mind that you need less protein when you're bulking, right? Because you're in a caloric surplus. So less of your protein is going to be converted to glucose. Less of your protein is going to be broken down for glucose. So when you're bulking, you need less protein with a higher emphasis on obviously carbohydrates and fats. Obviously, if you have a shitty appetite, then you might want to increase fats, a bit more because they're more calorically dense. But so I would say for somebody who's bulking, protein instead of 1 gram per pound of body weight, obviously lean body weight. Whenever I say 1 gram per pound of body weight, I'm usually referring to lean body weight or goal body weight. Because again, if you weigh 400 pounds and you're a fat fuck, you obviously don't need 400 grams of protein. You know, but so when you're bulking, you could bring the protein down to 0.7 grams per pound of body weight, or even lean body weight again. But you're gonna increase your carbohydrates, your fats, right? Your calories are gonna go up. Therefore, you don't have to worry about catabolizing your protein. So I would say somebody who's bulking, you definitely want. And again, I'm assuming you're bulking, and you clean bulking. You're also training very hard. In that case, you want your carbs to be at least 40% of your calories, and this is at least. Ideally, you want 50, even 60% of your calories from carbs. As far as fat goes, again, anywhere from 20. You don't want to go below 20% of your calories from fats. So anywhere from 20 to 30% of your calories should be fats to maintain ideal hormone levels, ideal testosterone levels, to keep inflammation down through eating higher monounsaturated fats, and obviously to maintain the structural integrity of your cells, right? Because you need a lot of fats for the cell membrane of your cells, including your muscle cells. So 20 to 30% of calories from fats, 40 to 60% of your calories from carbs, depending again on how often you train, how frequently you train, how hard you train, how long you train, right? Carbohydrates is mainly for people who train hard, right? If you don't train hard, you could go on a keto diet, you'd be just fine. Main purpose of carbohydrates to fuel training and to fuel recovery. Again, carbs also have other effects on testosterone production. I'm going to explain at the end of the video. But again, if you're bulking, 20 to 30% of your calories from fats, 40 to 60% to carbs, depending on how frequently and how hard you train. And obviously, protein can be the rest. So let's see. Hope that answers your question. Next, definitely true since there are foods that are so rich with carbs like sweet potatoes, brown rice, and Greek yogurt. Carbohydrates are clearly a W. Absolutely, carbs are amazing if you're an athlete or if you lift weights frequently. You almost an athlete, right? Again, you're not as extreme as an athlete, right? But trust me, your energy demands and your micronutrient demands and your macronutrient demands are a lot higher than the average person. You into athlete territory, but not obviously not top level athlete territory. Next, if calories and fats are left equal, then doesn't that mean that protein has to decrease for carbs to increase? I know you mentioned that carbs lower sex hormone binding globulin, but the case scenario you just gave would make the extra free T counterproductive since protein is king when it comes to body composition, unless my understanding is wrong. Okay, so keep in mind that you need a minimum amount of protein to obviously build muscle, to even produce testosterone, right? Because the enzymes, the genes that code for the enzymes that make testosterone, you obviously need amino acids to translate those genes, right? So let's be clear here. You need protein for everything. It's the source of life, along with water. But the inverted U curve for protein and testosterone is very narrow, right? So once you have enough protein to make testosterone, to make the genes, to translate the genes, right, to make the enzymes that produce testosterone, further increasing protein past what you need is counterproductive because now that's going to take away from carbs and fats and stuff like that, right? So the inverted U curve for protein as it relates to testosterone is very narrow, right? Also remember that the more carbs you eat, right, the more calories you eat as well, the less protein you need because less protein is going to be converted, it's going to be broken down for glucose, right? So that's why lowering protein, as long as it's not too low, as long as it's still within the optimal range, that's why lowering protein in exchange for more carbs and fats, keep in mind for somebody who's training, is not, counterproductive. It's actually beneficial, right? The only time I require high protein, right? Again, not when I say high, I'm not talking about excessively high. The only time I recommend high protein is for people who are cutting, who are doing body recomposition, who are insulin resistant, because obviously they can't process high carbs, or people who are eating a vegan or vegetarian diet because they're not getting enough leucine. And that's pretty much most people. But as long as you train frequently, as long as you're insulin sensitive, and as long as your testosterone levels are not shit, you will benefit from increasing your carb intake and slightly lowering your protein intake to make room for that. Next, carbs equals energy, equals intense workout, equals more T production. It doesn't really work like that, but you have right. Right, because the testosterone boost you get from training is mainly acute, right? It goes back down it goes back down after a while. But the long term effects, the long term benefits of training intensely within reason, obviously will lead to more testosterone, more baseline testosterone. Next, the only reason I chose false is because it increases free testosterone, not total. Correct me if I'm wrong. It depends, right? So yes, carbohydrates increase free testosterone, right? Because carbs lower sex hormone binding globulin. But you also have to remember that somebody who trains a lot is going to have higher levels of cortisol, right? Because your body is in a state of stress. Your body's trying to release glucose, So carbohydrates will increase total testosterone if the person trains a lot or is under a lot of stress, produces a lot of cortisol, right? So it depends on the situation here. Most of you guys watching the video, I'm assuming you train a lot, so yes, you will get an increase in total testosterone from increasing your carb intake, simply because those carbs will lower cortisol, right? Remember, it's not all about total testosterone and free testosterone. It's about the net balance, net androgen status. It's about your androgens and also your anti-androgens, right? So it's about increasing testosterone, total testosterone, free testosterone, DHEA sulfate, obviously DHT, free DHT, androstenedione. But it's also about lowering cortisol, lowering prolactin, lowering excess estradiol, right? So it's all about the balance, right? I just say testosterone levels in the polls and in the videos because most people watching the videos are beginners. So if I say net androgen status, they won't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and the algo won't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So it won't even know who to show my videos to. So I have to say testosterone levels, but it's really net androgen status, right? Which is, again, your androgens in a free state and also in a bound state to some extent, minus your androgens. So it's that whole balance. That's why you can't just look at testosterone levels. Like somebody saying, my T levels are 600. That means absolutely nothing if I don't know the big picture, right? You could have 1,000 nanogram per deciliter testosterone. You could have 300 picogram per milliliter free testosterone. You could have fucking 120 nanogram per deciliter DHT. But if you have super high cortisol or you have shit androgen receptors, that means nothing, right? So it's about the whole balance. So yes, I hope that answered your question. Next, let's see. Carbs during the right timing window can help increase protein synthesis, which can technically lead to better overall gains. Correct. Again, it's all about that, balance between myofibrillary protein synthesis and myofibrillary protein breakdown. That's what builds muscle, right? In a nutshell, increasing protein synthesis, myofibrillary protein synthesis, and decreasing protein breakdown, right? So obviously, carbs are gonna primarily decrease protein breakdown. Sorry. In addition to some of the other benefits I'm gonna mention at the end of the video. The steady calories and energy that you burn with carbs when you already have protein and fats in check will help keep the body fat in a caloric surplus and prime for growth. Correct, correct, correct. Carbs are very protein and fat sparing, which is good, especially if you train hard. Next, to be exact, fats have the most impact on T. Carbs not much, but it's responsible for how much free T you got, which is almost more important than T. Yeah, so you're right and wrong. You're right. You half right and you half wrong. So let me read for the guys who can't see the screen or who are probably just playing this video as they're walking. He said, to be exact, fats have the most impact on T. Carbs not much, but is responsible for how much free T you got, which is almost more important than total T. So let me break that down because it's half right, half wrong. First part, he said fats have the most impact on T. Not really, right? If you want to be technical, it's really protein, right? Because at the end of the day, your body's not producing any testosterone if you don't have the enzymes that obviously convert cholesterol to testosterone, right? And what are those enzymes made from? Amino acids, right? Which you get from protein, right? Especially the essential ones. So to be technical, protein is the key to everything, right? Your body's not making testosterone or the androgen receptor, which again, testosterone is practically useless to an extent without the androgen receptor. But your body's not making any of that without protein, right? So let's start with that. Next, you could also argue that carbs are just as important because your body needs glucose, ATP, right? Your body needs glucose to make ATP, right? So most important macronutrient for life in general, including stuff like producing testosterone, is really protein, right? Because you'll die without protein. Next will obviously be fats because your cell membranes are made from fats. And again, the benefits of fats, such as lowering inflammation, absorbing a lot of the important testosterone boosting micronutrients, the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. So fats will be next, and then you could put carbs last. But the only reason why carbs are even last is because your body can convert protein and fats to glucose, which is the reason why we need carbs in the first place. So carbs is only last because the body has other ways to produce glucose. If not, then carbs will be number one, right? Because you need energy to do everything I just listed. Now, once you have enough protein, meaning the minimum amount of protein you need, the minimum amount of carbs you need, the minimum amount of fats you need. Now, if we talk about dose response, right, increasing what is going to lead to more testosterone. Yeah, technically increasing fats will have the most impact, but that's assuming the person is not training hard. If the person is training hard, then it's the other way around. It's increasing carbohydrates. That's going to have the most impact. So you got to be careful with blanket statements like that. It all depends on context. Next, you also said carbs is responsible for how much free T you got. It's not just free T. Once again, it's also total T. Like I said, through lowering cortisol, through increasing thyroid production, especially T3, preventing T3 conversion to reverse T3, increasing IGF-1, which is going to lead to better androgen receptor signaling. So carbs don't just increase free T. That's just surface level shit. Carbs have a lot of benefits, especially if you train. Not to mention, carbs also help you fall asleep. Which again is gonna help with T production. So long story short, carbs are very, very underrated. Also, you said free T is more important than total T. That's another myth. They both have very, very, very important functions in the body. You don't want to just say free T is better than total T. It depends. It depends. Yes, free T. I don't make this video about free T and total T, but since he mentioned it, yes, free T is really what enters the cell and binds to the androgen receptor and gets converted to DHT or estradiol, blah blah blah. But you just have to remember that if you have too much free T and not enough total T, you fucked, right? Because that free T is gonna also enter the brain. It's also gonna enter the pituitary gland, convert to estradiol and lower LH. It's going to lower luteinizing hormone, which is going to lead to less androgens, right? So you're going to have less DHEA, you're going to have less androstenedione, you're going to have less total testosterone. So you want to have a balance between total T and free T, right? It's not as simple as free T is more important than total T, right? You need high total T because once all that free T is used up and taken up by the brain, that's going to lead to less total testosterone, which is going to lead to less free T again, right? Not to mention that total T, which is really testosterone bound to, SHBG and albumin, is needed because one, SHBG has its own receptor, especially when it's complex with testosterone, and two, you need that quote unquote savings account, right? Right? Because remember, SHBG, yes, it binds testosterone and makes it somewhat inactive, but it also keeps it stable and keeps it in the bloodstream longer, right? So it's too simplistic to say free T is more important than total T. No, they're both incredibly important. You do not want to upset that balance. All right, next. Without carbs, I'm dead. For some reason, my legs keep going. What the hell are you talking about? Next, carbs are essential to release certain hormones that can help increase testosterone. So yes, correct. Remember, your brain is your hypothalamus is not going to release gonadotropin releasing hormone, right? GNRH, which relates to LH release. It's not going to do that if your blood does not have enough glucose, right? So if you're very low in glucose, then yeah, carbs are important. Yes, your body can convert protein and fat to glucose, but again, that process is it's gonna release. It's gonna need glucagon and cortisol, which is not it's not efficient. Next, so for insulin resistant people, high carbs will make them fat, which leads to low T. But low carbs, which will lead to them losing fat, will lead to low T as well. Nah. So if a person is insulin resistant, yeah, obviously if they keep piling on carbs, they're gonna get fat, and that's gonna lead to low T, right? But keep in mind that if they're going on a low carb diet, assuming they're insulin resistant, assuming they're obese, overweight, whatever, yes, they're gonna have less glucose, less carbs, so higher cortisol, but they're also gonna lose body fat, assuming they're in a caloric deficit, of course. But losing body fat is gonna lead to improved inflammatory markers, right? And obviously lower estrogen levels, which are going to increase the testosterone. So long story short, the balance becomes a net positive. If a person is fat and they go on a low carb, if the person is fat and insulin resistant and they go on a low carb diet, they're actually going to increase the testosterone levels, but mainly because they're losing body fat. So less testosterone is converted to estrogens and less inflammatory cytokines are being released from the body fat. So it's kind of like losing 2 points from the high cortisol from the low carbs, but gaining 6 points from losing all that body fat. Next, does it matter if they're simple carbs like honey or dessert? Obviously, simple versus complex carbs depends on timing. It's all about timing, guys. So again, around the gym or right after the gym, if you want to recover faster and you want to be able to train the next day, yeah, you want simple carbs in that 2 hour window right after the gym, because that's when you're gonna have maximally elevated rates of glycogen replenishment. But any other time, you could use complex carbohydrates. In fact, that would be recommended, to have stable levels of blood sugar. So hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. Next, any foods with lots of carbs is a fatigue food. It's good for sleeping because it makes you feel tired, and with good sleep, you make testosterone. Yeah, I mean that's another benefit of carbohydrates, right? They help you sleep mainly by increasing tryptophan uptake, right, to the brain, which is going to convert to serotonin, which obviously you guys know serotonin is needed for melatonin, which helps you sleep. So that's another benefit of carbs. People on low carb diets tend to struggle with sleep. Next, carbs can lower cortisol stress, which improves testosterone. Yep, I already mentioned that. What's your ideal ratio for macros? Again, it depends. I think I answered that earlier. It depends on the person and their goals. But as I said earlier, you want about next. Arnold said that fat. What the fuck? I think he meant is. Let me see. Yeah, S is close to D on the keyboard. Yeah. Arnold said that fat is burned in the presence of carbs, so indirectly carbs does. What the hell are you saying? But anyway, next. Why do carbs make me so sleepy? I just explained that earlier. It depends on when you eat your carbs. If you want to benefit from the fact that carbs make you sleepy, well, you could take that later in the day, as opposed to early in the day. And again, it depends on the type of carbs, right? If you're eating simple carbs, yeah, it's gonna make you sleepy, especially if you're eating a fuck ton of simple carbs. Also, you could be insulin resistant, right? Because if you're eating, let's say, complex carbs, you shouldn't be sleepy, right? Unless you're eating obviously a fuck ton of it. So if you're eating complex carbs, slow digesting carbs, and you're sleepy, chances are you probably insulin resistant. So what's happening is you're insulin resistant, so your body's releasing a fuck ton of insulin to try to get the glucose into the cells. And eventually, because your body's releasing so much insulin, eventually your blood sugar drops way too low, and that makes you sleepy, tired, whatever. Not to mention that you could also be sleepy if you eat a big meal, right? If the meal is too big, yeah, your body's gonna, you know, put you in this parasympathetic state because it has to digest. It has to take blood flow away from the brain, away from other tissues, and towards your digestive tract. Anyway, let's see. I love how Megan doesn't know that tofu is the best testosterone boosting food. Each 3.5 ounce serving has this guy. He clearly doesn't read 20 studies a day. Next, I hope it's true. All I eat is carbs. Next, starting to think that the best macro split is just a flat 33% of everything, judging by the importance of all of them in just about all our goals except getting shredded. Yeah, you need all three. You need all three macronutrients, all right? And obviously you need fiber as well, which is part of carbs. But yeah, protein, you don't need 33% protein, though. You don't, unless, again, you recomping or you in a caloric deficit, or you insulin resistant, right? Those are the people that I prescribe high protein intakes to. But yeah, you need all three macronutrients, all three. Some are obviously more important depending on the scenario, but you need all three. Next, carbohydrates equals gasoline for activity. Next, low insulin equals low testosterone, but high insulin very low. Wait, what? What? Let me read that again. Low insulin equals low testosterone, but high insulin equals very low testosterone. No, it doesn't work like that, bro. Remember, like insulin and testosterone both work together, right? You need both hormones in balance. You don't want anything too low or too high, right? You need insulin to obviously shuttle amino acids and glucose into the cells. Again, like I mentioned earlier, your brain is not gonna produce enough GNRH and LH if there's not enough glucose into the GNRH producing neurons, right? Brain cells. So you need insulin for that. But you also don't want insulin too high because then it's going to crush your blood sugar. And again, it's going to lead to insulin resistance eventually. So, you want everything in balance. You know, it's too simplistic to say that, oh, insulin and testosterone, antagonize each other. No. They both helps keep the body in homeostasis. Next, you didn't mention how much more specifically. What kind of carbs are we talking about? Obviously, we're talking about nutrient dense carbs. Next, I get these wrong every time. Next, no carb cause diabetes. No, carbs don't cause diabetes. Carbs combined with inactivity and genetic predisposition cause diabetes. So if you eat carbs and you sit on your ass all day, yeah, of course you're gonna get diabetes eventually. You know, but if you're active, it's actually if you're active, you train every day, you move a lot, high NEAT, high EAT, high TDE. Yeah, carbs are great. Next, carb-backloading gives you hella T. Next, carbs are good but not necessary. You can survive without it. Yeah, you can survive without carbs, but that's because your body's converting protein and fats to the byproduct of carbs, which is glucose. So it depends on context here. But yeah, you could definitely survive without carbs. But that doesn't mean that it's not optimal for somebody who trains. You could train on low carbs, but it's gonna be a fucking shitty session, even if you quote unquote fat adapted. There's a reason why most athletes are on high carb diets. Over 90% of athletes, power athletes in the NFL, NBA, all these very important, very intense sports. There's a reason why almost 90 to 99% of these athletes are on high carb diets. It's just common sense. All right, next. Carb. Okay, this is way too long. Wrong. Carbs reduce testosterone due to insulin resistance. I already explained that. Was on my way to Carb Max and Blow Max with the 7-Eleven sushi. All right, this video, wow, I actually made it almost a 30-minute video, even though I said I wouldn't. But yeah, so let me give you guys the reason why. Again, the reason why carbohydrates increase testosterone, not just testosterone, but also net androgen status, which once again is what matters. The reason why I say testosterone or testosterone levels is because that's what beginners understand, right? But really, whenever I'm saying testosterone, I'm referring to net androgen status, which is all of your androgens minus all of your anti-androgens, right? So carbs increase your net androgen status by lowering cortisol, right? So that's going to improve your testosterone to cortisol ratio, right? Because it's not just about testosterone, it's about the big picture, right? The net androgen status. So carbs lower cortisol, improve your T to C ratio, right? Your testosterone cortisol ratio, because by lowering cortisol, you're allowing higher testosterone production because they're both made from the same, molecule, which is cholesterol, and also in your adrenals, they're both made from pregnenolone. Carbs increase thyroid hormone production, right? Especially T3. Carbs lower the conversion of T3 to reverse T3, which is obviously bad, right? You don't want a lot of reverse T3. Carbs increase IGF-1, which is obviously anabolic as fuck and is also needed for optimal androgen receptor activity. Carbs help you sleep at night, which again, carbs increase tryptophan transport into the brain across the blood-brain barrier, which leads to conversion to serotonin and eventually melatonin. So, go for sleep. Carbs increase performance, so it allows you to train harder in the gym, which is gonna long term allow you to build more muscle, which obviously is gonna affect your insulin sensitivity in the future and lead to higher baseline levels of testosterone in the future. And obviously, a lot of nutrient dense carbs are full of micronutrients that you cannot get in high amounts from animal sources, right? It's very hard to get enough vitamin C, enough boron, enough vitamin K. What else? Enough manganese, from not magnesium, manganese from only animal foods, right? So many benefits to eating nutrient dense carbs in the right amounts, especially if you train hard. All right, hope this video helps. Don't forget to join the Reddit, the Discord, the Instagram, the TikTok. Don't forget to support the channel if you wish by going to the website and grabbing yourself a copy of the ebook. And yeah, see you guys in the next poll. All right, guys, don't forget to like or share the video, subscribe and hit the bell, and buy my HSP Nucleus of a Low training program. It's the ultimate program for maximum muscle growth. It includes full body workout splits, bro splits, push pull, home workouts, you name it. Also comes with a complete guide for macros, nutrition, fat loss, muscle growth, hormones, including a meal plan. It's pretty much all my 16 years of experience condensed into one fucking book. You're also going to get free copies of any future edition. So visit team3dalpha.com and you can use the 40% off coupon code Nucleus Overload. Or you could just buy the shit at full price. All right, guys, I'm out of here.